Hi.
No, we're
All
live.
right.
We're
We're
live.
live. Well, Dr. Albano, I welcome everybody who's joining us here today or in recording of this great opportunity we have. I'm Brian Durbin. I'm a co-founder of Synchronicity here, a well-being oasis in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, where every day we help people to feel and function at their best. And I'm fortunate to be joined today by Dr. Marie Albano of Columbia University, where we're going to be talking a little bit about anxiety, especially the anxiety we all might be feeling as we take these new sorts of roles and responsibilities in our lives. But Dr. Albano, I'd love for you just to introduce yourself to our crowd a little bit, tell them sort of a little bit about your experience and what you're up to here in Charleston.
Yeah, great. Good morning, everyone. And I know there's been a bit more anxiety than even the usual with tornadoes happening this morning. So I hope everybody is okay, and that this has passed you by now. We're getting it up in New York where I'm sitting right now in my house. And so, yes, I want to talk about what I'm doing first. I'm a clinical psychologist, spent the last 30 years in my career focusing on the treatment of anxiety and depression, largely in children, adolescents, and young adults, but also adults. And I've been here at Columbia University School of Medicine since 2004. And in this capacity of having been working in this field, I met up with Brian and with other members of the community down in Charleston, and we hatched an idea that came out of the work that's being done by a family foundation and MUSC. And that is to bridge the gap between wellness and mental health. And so I'm so excited because I've been flying down to you all week after week after week until this pandemic happened. And I'm looking forward to coming back soon. We are opening up a program, a center called Modern Minds, where we are going to be very much the integrated wellness and mental health program to get people who have fallen off their baseline because of anxiety or depression, not just back to doing okay, but flourishing to living the lives that they want to live, a truly valued, driven, active life that will bring people, I think, much reward and wellness and health for the long term. So that's how I know Brian.
That's right.
And so looking forward to know you all much, much better and more closely as time goes on.
And we are looking forward to having you back down here on a regular basis again very soon.
I missed that ocean view or the bay view, whatever. I missed it, yeah.
So, Anne-Marie, if we could start maybe on a really high level and just speak maybe, if you would, just a little bit about what anxiety is for folks who might be new to the term.
Yeah, well, anxiety is living. I mean, I'm going to put it to you just like that. We are fortunate that, we're living beings who go through the world with eyes and ears are wide open as much as we can. And we feel from moment to moment, we feel through the course of our day, from the moment we're aware that we're waking up to the time where we're ready to go to sleep at night, we feel. And what are basic human emotions and feelings? We know anxiety is one of the main ones. Anxiety works on, for us, that fight or flight response. That is there something I need to take care of right now that if I don't, something bad will happen? And it also works on the what if of the future. What do I need to get prepared for down the line? So everything from looking two ways while crossing the street so you don't get run over, to paying your bills on time, or for kids, getting the homework done. Anxiety is there to help us make it through our day and through life, and stay safe.
Got it. So it has this really basic functional purpose in our lives, right? To help us operate as best we can. Right?
It absolutely does. And I have to say, so do other emotions. I mean,
right.
Sadness, which is another normal human emotion. And, when we have losses, we should feel sad or do feel sad. Upset, irritability, anger when things go wrong. It's okay to feel. That's
right.
part of who we are. But the thing I try to tell folks, and kids get this well, we all have emotions that we want to keep in our carry-on bags and be able to put them in the overhead bin. All right. When they get to be out of our control. When they're too much and they're falling out of the overhead on people's heads and on yourselves, that's when things can be problematic. So anxiety is there to motivate us and keep us safe. But when it gets to be too much and it manages us too much, then it could be trouble.
Got it. It manages us. Can you maybe help me understand that a little bit more?
Yes. So when we let our anxiety run over us, this is where you can't stop worrying. And in the case of, for instance, if we're talking about children, these are children who, no matter how much reassurance you give them, yes, it's going to be okay. That's just fine to do it that way. Oh, yeah, you're safe. We're okay. You've got it all done for schoolwork. You don't have to go further. These kids, they never seem to be reassured. They're always asking, yeah, but what if the teacher doesn't like this paper? Or what if my friends won't want to do the things that I want to do at the party? Or what if we go on vacation and someone gets sick and there's no hospital around? They're constantly worried. Okay. And so when it gets to be too much, you can't take things as they are and relax. And it gets in the way of your ability to problem solve if there is something going on. Got
it. So, I mean, all those emotions that you talked about just a moment ago, I know I personally have experienced all of them, generally speaking, but definitely in the last few weeks here. And I'm wondering, I bet a lot of parents out there, have kids who are wondering what's going to happen, what's going on. They themselves, I know myself and my wife, we're now homeschooling parents. We have not counted on that happening, right? And so, how can maybe a parent, like is in my situation, help deal with those ever-flowing emotions, especially anxiety, for our new roles?
Yes. Well, one of the first things, I'm going to stick with an airline analogy here for a second. The best way we could help our kids, especially during an extraordinary time like this, where everyone's lives are upended. Your children may be home from school, but you or your spouse, if you have a partner, they're home from work too, right? We're all stuck. And the best thing we could do is think about when you get on an airplane and they're doing the safety check, they say, if that mask falls down, you put it on yourself first, and then you put it on your child. So the very first thing that all of the parents out there have to do, and teachers out there, or educators, is take care of yourself first.
Right.
Okay. And Brian, you are in this business, of checking, how am I doing? Am I breathing? And when we say breathing, it means really, am I taking deep breaths and really breathing and keeping myself cool? Am I getting enough exercise and moving through the day? Because now we're stuck in our houses. We're lucky. I mean, I'm in New York. My backyard is the size of a postage stamp. But I tell you, I'm out there, even in the rain, walking. Are we getting enough movement and doing what we need to do? Are we doing our own self-care of taking care of our needs, showering, getting enough sleep, eating healthy? We have to do that first. That's our oxygen mask.
Right.
So we have to check on ourselves first. Then we could start attending to our kids.
Got it. And you're right on. I mean, we are in the business of the metaphorical oxygen mask here at Secretive. It's definitely what we try and do is encourage people to put their wellness first, because, it's cliche, but health is the first wealth, taking care of ourselves, making sure we can be there for other people. And so you and I got a chance to talk a little bit last week, and specifically around this of taking care of ourselves first. And you gave me some really great advice about building structure into our lives right now in these new sort of circumstances. Do you mind elaborating on that a little bit for our group?
Yes. And this is important, especially for those of you who are working at home or have someone living with you who's now working at home. We have to stick to our routine. So Monday through Friday, for example, my husband and I are getting up at the same time we always do. He's an hour earlier than me, and so he's taking care to be quiet, not to wake me up to do his thing. And then when I get up, we're doing what we normally would do with self-care. His exercise, he's a morning exercise guy. I'm an evening exercise person. He likes a certain type of breakfast. I like a certain type of breakfast. We're sticking with that. We've set aside places where he's working in the house and where I'm working in the house that are just for work, and not going to be that we're working all over the house and we lose the space where we relax or we have, our meals. Think about how you can do that for yourselves. And also partnering, if you have a partner, with sharing responsibilities when it comes to the kids. Now, if you are alone, because there are single parents out there, right? And folks who live by themselves. How are you connecting to others to help? So for
Mm.
example, I have a niece who is a second grade teacher with 3 kids who are 3, 5, and 7 at home.
Wow.
And my nephew is working all day. She connects with a grandparents to take over at times, video chatting and games with the kids, and grandparents doing some of the schoolwork for the 7 and the 5-year-old, so
Right.
she can teach her own classes.
Right.
There's different ways if you are alone, of getting people through chats to help you at home, and then also making sure that we have social time.
Right.
So, getting people on chats and doing family gaming. I think it's called Fibbage, is a game that's fun. It's kind of like a Jeopardy with, what's the wrong thing here? I don't know. But there's all kinds of games online to do with families and friends. There's been happy hours online that adults have been doing. We need that. Just one-on-one with one of your friends. We
Right.
need that time. So please, parents, please make sure you're doing this for yourselves.
Absolutely. So,
and you
but
could
what,
probably add to that because you work in this field. So
oh my gosh, yeah, there's so many wellness things that don't take up a tremendous amount of time or expense that we can incorporate in a systematic way into our lives that just make a giant difference, especially as these emotions sort of come and pass through us and all this sort of uncertainty that we're all experiencing for sure. Everything from
Right.
nutritional changes and adaptations to exercise to mindfulness exercises, the host of apps to working on your relationships with people. And in fact, truly, during this, I have been so taken by the adaptability of we humans. It's incredible watching us adapt to these circumstances. And yes, it's a challenge, but oh my gosh, can we step up to it and create in this environment? It's really kind of invigorating for me to see.
Very good. Yeah. That's right.
So my next question would be, because I know you've dealt a lot with sort of school refusal behavior. And so now that's one thing when I'm trying to get my child to go to school. It's entirely another when school exists between the bedroom and the kitchen table. So do you have any advice for parents, who are trying to get structure back into their children's lives? And boy, they're really meeting up with a challenge.
Yeah. Well, this is a very tough time. And when it comes to children who have different learning or emotional challenges, one of the sad things in a way, and also on the other hand, the flip side of that is an eye-opening and enlightening thing for some of the parents I've been working with. They're telling me, now I understand more of what happens in school with my child who has very great difficulty controlling their behavior and sitting in their seat, for example.
Right.
Or my child who has anxiety about school work. Parents are seeing a bit more of this where they hadn't necessarily recognized how it revolves around the day-to-day of school. They certainly have their brunt of it. When it comes to children, for example, with learning issues, whether it's a learning disability, again, ADHD type in work and ADHD such, parents there are seeing that it's a bit harder to structure them. So what we need to do is, number one, be in good contact with the school and push to talk to the school to find out what are some workbooks, what are some plans, what's some online resources that will help me to help my child. Because kids may need smaller breaks than what you think they're capable of because they're at home and because at school they usually build in some of this for them. So that's number one. Make sure you're giving your child only what they can bite off and give them a break. And use if you do this, then you get that. If you work for 15 minutes on this worksheet, then I'm going to give you 5 minutes, 10 minutes of you and I doing jumping jacks or playing a game or something, trying to do things like that. When it comes to school refusal, this is the tough one because these kids have been waiting for a pandemic to happen because it's like, I don't have to go. And not only am I not going, I'm not doing it at home either. So again, I want parents to know it is okay to use reinforcers. Parents like to ask me all the time, but am I bribing my child? It's not that we want you to promise the world and give big things, but what they naturally want or work for, you only make available if the child is compliant with what's the minimum of what you need them to do. And again, it may be, I know you don't want to go to school. We're home right now. I need you to read in this, book that's been assigned, and you're going to do, a couple pages a day and write a little paragraph. If you do this, then you get time on screens.
Right.
We have to do that kind of thing. And at the same time, we have to be thinking with the school personnel and mental health professionals as needed. What are we going to do when the stay-at-homes are lifted?
Right. It's such a good point. And in the moment, it can be so challenging for us, when you're in the midst of that and, you're wondering about, am I going to be employed next week, right? Am I going to get through welfare to the welfare check today? Is my check going to come from the government today, right? You're overwhelmed. Is my parent going to get sick? Or we have all that going on. And to remember these sorts of really practical bits of information, for me, I find I always have to plan it out. If this happens, this is the approach I'll take, right? I will physically write it out beforehand, and then it's sort of there for me when I'm experiencing the challenge in the moment. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it's something I've used for a long time.
It does make sense, and it makes sense to kids. And actually, one of the things that we've been doing too, and again, I have to give my second grade teacher niece a lot of credit for this. She has helped me to see making a visual sign of the daily routine for each of your children and posting that at home and having them make it with you. Even she had her little ones, she helped the 3-year-old, but make their signs of what their schedule is going to be. And then also she has a reinforcer chart hanging up for each of them, right? So what they need to accomplish each day, and then what is going to be their unique for that child extra 15 times of minutes of just time with dad, let's say, playing a game or whatever it is. At the same time, parents, let's think about what can you let go.
Yeah.
In a way, you want to choose some of your battles at this point, and especially when you have multiple children at home. So we don't want there to be added tension where there needs to be, because we're trying to over control everybody. Some things we have to let slide a little bit. And, again, the 3-year-old in my niece's house refuses to wear anything but a pair of underwear. So every picture I have on Instagram of this kid, she is topless, whatever. But they're not going down that route right now. They'll get to that later.
Right. And I think when we're, as you said, picking our battles, it's so important that the wellness tools of putting on your oxygen mask, back to that point, is so important, because then we can actually maybe take a step back, take a breath, and it gives us a little bit of space so that we can effectively choose which battles we're going to fight, whether we're going to force the shirt on or if we're going to go to some other, that's really great insight. One thing I'd love to share with everybody is you gave me a great tip this past week when we were talking, and you talked about structuring independent time with my kids where they actually lead the way, right? They control everything. And so I spent probably 20 minutes with my daughter and we played make-believe. She's 8, using these figurines, and I didn't control anything. She controlled everything. And it was stupendous. Afterward, her affection, the joy of being there and feeling in control of something was incredible for her. And I just love for you to share the importance of that with everyone else. It was so influential in my life.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that went well, because, the thing we have to bear in mind is anxiety is heightened by the experience of us not knowing what we can control and feeling we're out of control, and we can't predict when things are going to get back to the way they should be or what bad thing will happen next.
Right.
Uncontrollability and unpredictability. And so this makes things worse. For kids, first and foremost, when they can know what's going on as best as they can understand it, that's important. But the other thing that happens here is when they can have time with you where they could just be the kid. And this comes from a lot of research that was done, and the basis of what's known as parent-child interaction therapy, where parents, we start with teaching the parents to just let the child direct the play.
Right.
No judgments like, oh, why did you put the red block on the blue block? No control here. Let me do that for you. Right. No judgments, no controlling, just sitting back and parents going with the flow. The only rules are that no one can be hurt, and that, it's just play activity. And so by doing that and giving each child 10 to 15 minutes a day of that happening, it helps them to feel that you love them dearly, that you're there for them, that they can be safe around you, and that you're listening to them. And that then just gives a great sense of stability to little kids' lives that are very different, in the moment. And parent-child interaction therapy builds from that for children who have aggressive or conduct-related issues, but also for anxiety. We teach parents to use that as a frame, and then how to give labeled praise. I like the way you built that house. Oh, that's so helpful to me. Thank you for helping your little sister with that task. We build on that as we move towards how to help parents then to control more difficult situations in the home.
Absolutely. I'm curious to maybe people out there wonder what signs should I look out for right now as we're going through all this that might tell me anxiety is really becoming a problem and I need to do something else for my child?
Yeah. So there's a number of ways that anxiety manifests itself. One of the things, of course, is your child saying things that maybe they hear, that they pick up somewhere and don't understand, or they're imagining things like, are you going to get sick and die? Look, there are people who are out there, we know, who are on the front lines in healthcare, but there's also our grocery store clerks who are working and keeping going. There's people who are in service positions all over the place, and they have to go in, police and firefighters, you name it. And kids are seeing and picking things up, even little ones. So the question number one for children is, am I going to be safe? And are you going to be safe?
Right.
So we have to help kids to hear, factual information. So if you get a lot of questions, that's one thing. Second, so what if? Second thing, if you see a change in their behavior, that they're not sleeping well, they're more irritable, they're more clingy to you. Also, if they're a lot of breathlessness because they're actually shaking with panicky and being panicky. And no matter what you say or what you try to do, it doesn't reassure them.
Right.
We might also see kids who tend towards obsessive compulsive behavior, much more rituals and needing things a certain way just right because they're trying to gain control.
Right.
And then, there are people, especially here where I am right now in New York, who are experiencing tremendous losses.
Right.
So if loss is affecting families, and when I say losses, let's bear in mind that I just suffered a loss this week of my uncle who went into the hospital for a heart attack and then developed complications. It wasn't COVID. People have medical issues going into hospitals. Right. And if the family can't be with them, it's tremendously upsetting. Our kids feeling this, and they haven't been able to say goodbye to grandma or grandpa. Excuse me. I'm not getting choked up. It's just talking.
I appreciate you sharing.
We have to watch. Yeah, sure. So we have to watch how are kids dealing with what is maybe hitting home. So are they withdrawing from you? Are they crying a lot? These are the things we want to watch for, that maybe they are experiencing things much more intensely and they need some help.
Got it. And is there sort of a time frame on when I would go, or severity of symptoms, when I would go and seek out a professional to help us through it?
Yeah. So first thing I would say to parents is there's many online resources actually that, for right now at least, will help guide you in seeing, is this too much? And what might I do at home to try to help my kids? And so Brian, I think we could put some up on the web and such, but I've done a lot of webinars with colleagues on helping to structure the home, how to deal even with loss and sadness, various things, and others are out there. But you shouldn't get overwhelmed with this, and you shouldn't feel that you are alone, because one of the side benefits maybe of what's happened in this pandemic is that online mental health services have come alive. Really? And there's so much out there now. In fact, even many states have reduced their restrictions on providing care across state lines. So there are counselors, and I'm sure MUSC is setting up many resources in the area. as I would imagine, just the State Psychological Association in South Carolina, but across the board. Go to the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, ADAA.org, and you can find a therapist there and a child therapist. If you can't find someone local, there's plenty of people to reach out to who will give you some guidance and actually see you and your child, just like we're doing this in a safe, secure, confidential web link.
Oh, that's great. What a great resource for people.
Yeah, really. And I hope these sustain after this, because, there's so many people who, for various reasons, you have children and you've got to work, or, you may be a stay-at-home parent with kids and stuff. Going across town after school, driving all over to appointments is hard.
It is a challenge.
So if they leave this telehealth in place, and we're able to study more of it in terms of what's helpful for whom, this could be a good benefit, a great benefit, especially for folks in rural areas or whatever, more complicated days. This is important for us to keep going.
That's a real bright side, and more access to things that can really help people not only, work through these challenging times, but to really get on the other side of that and move forward, even into the flourishing realm. That's pretty empowering.
Yes, definitely it is.
So I'm curious about, we've kind of, because my kids are little, 10 and 8, and so we've kind of been talking about the conversation down there, but what about for, say, high school seniors or kids that have missed out on a major milestone in their life?
Yep.
I think about my kids' elementary school before, and they have a 5th grade play that led up to, and it's a big deal, and the kids look forward to it during all primary school. How do you help those kids who are maybe dealing with a major milestone that got taken away from them?
This is one of the things that, is really hard for so many kids and families. You've been raising these children, and whether it's even if it's the preschool to kindergarten graduation, but especially these milestones like 8th grade to high school to college, college graduations and such, they're hurting. They've worked hard and been looking forward to this. So that's one thing is, there's major milestones that are now sort of shuttered. And so what we have to do is first take stock, and is the school and the community around those kids doing something together? And I know there's been a number, I've been getting invitations to online graduations, and definitely will attend. I've got an invitation that's amazing to a dance recital from one of my clients. She's 7 years old and she's a ballerina, and they are going to be doing it online. And so you think about this, schools and organizations are thinking through how to make something online for the kids to be, whatever the milestone is, to have that. At the same time, the families can gather ways at home and bring in the relatives and stuff and do something on their own, and put a performance together, a video thing on my child's life, and you could and celebrate them in that way. And then we do have to, and I know school personnel and the administrators all around are thinking through how to commemorate once the stay-at-homes are lifted, what can be done, which is tricky. Because if they're lifted here during the summer, of course, summer plans. Now, many families, this is another thing, just as a family, are having to cancel summer plans.
Yeah.
And, for many reasons, financial reasons, as well as people have to get back to work, various things. But what can you do then as a family so that you have even, the staycation, not that you're tired of being at home, but does this mean, pitching tents in the backyard and really making a weekend of it where you can? We have to help kids to think through and be flexible in the way they look at these milestones or look at these losses of vacation or whatever it might be, and think about the longer term for as much as they can about the meaning of being together, and that their efforts are not forgotten, they're not minimized, they're not lost. The next step is coming.
Yeah.
So we have to validate their feelings of disappointment while helping them be flexible then with turning this around to, okay, what am I moving towards now?
Got it. That's such a great point. And I'd love to hear your input on, there's almost a mourning process that goes on when we lose our structure or lose one of these major milestones in our life. And all too often people are saying, well, look in the positive, just hey, get up and do that. Is there a time frame, where somebody is actually in this state of, gosh, this was rough. This was a rough one.
I'm going to take this in a couple of ways here, because for some kids who have more resourced lives and such, and they may be able to more flexibly move this along and all, that's one thing. They still are feeling disappointed. They're missing their friends. They're not, let's remember, this pandemic is going to be, for our kids, their John F. Kennedy moment, Martin Luther King moment. It's going to be, their 9/11, quite frankly. This is defining their senior year or whatever this is. They're going to remember this, except maybe the very, very little ones. So no matter how resourced they are, that's still there. So we have to listen carefully. But then, there are many children where not only are they missing out on milestones, they're just missing out maybe on the day-to-day security and comfort and the haven that school has provided them.
Right.
Kids who come from more difficult backgrounds and homes who right now are more exposed to tensions. And look, we know that child abuse calls are getting higher or increasing in certain areas and places. The parents are under much more stress, especially when there's economic stress or when there's parental mental illness, substance abuse, various things. So we have to be mindful that for some, they might not be paying attention to the fact that they missed their 8th grade or 9th grade or 12th grade graduation. But oh my goodness, I have to manage, being safe in a place where I'm not typically safe. So there's so many different things that we have to, when we receive the kids back at school or
Right.
whatever their next step might be, we have to be ready for the fact that besides loss that might happen due to COVID, and loss of what's happened to their milestones, there may also have been some other tragedies and other stressors. They're going to be different, the kids, and each unique child will need a period of time, and it could be for a while.
Right.
We as adults and the people in their lives around them have to be open to listening and observing and stepping in the way that we can bring resources to them as we're able to do that and see that.
Yeah. Is there any way, I mean, just as a concerned citizen in each of our local communities, is there a way that we can reach out and help in situations? It's such a good point taken that school can be a haven for so many kids. Are you aware of any organizations, either nationwide or locally, that would be of service in this instance?
Well, this is a place where I would say to start in terms of what is local, in terms of what foundations or organizations are there and have been doing things for the public schools specifically, and such. Like I was just on the phone today with a principal from one of our schools in Harlem, a public school, that a foundation has been coming in, and this is a school in a severely disadvantaged neighborhood. And this school has been a haven, 3 meals a day for the children. And, every child has a teacher or someone that they connect with each day, just about, and they could fall apart in front of, right?
Yeah.
And they get resources from. But so what she's concerned about is that the various foundations that have been doing extra stuff for the kids that provide for them, a sports activity after school, various kinds of mental health resources that are coming in, that they'll dry up if they're, as their donations that support these organizations dry up. So I think we have to take a look at who locally in Charleston, what are the foundations, what are the support networks that do things for your schools, and see, can you volunteer for them?
Yeah.
Can you donate to them? What are the needs that are there, and to go there. And then I would imagine looking at, again, whatever national mentoring organizations, big brothers, big sisters, various
Great
things like
organization.
that, that might be out there. How can we help or step up when we can, to go to them and say, I'm here, where are the need, let's work together.
Right. And another thing about
Mhm.
that is just that work like that, whether it's financial or, as you said, volunteer work, it's so meaningful. It's so motivational to us, right? And when we're struggling, we're challenged by all the things in our lives that maybe we can't predict. Boy, it can make an impact in grounding us and helping us through challenging times. At least that's been my experience.
Yeah. Well, and that's actually an important thing, Brian, that you bring up, because one of the other things during this time is that kids, if we can direct children in your homes to doing something that could be meaningful to the people who are being impacted by the virus, that helps the kids to feel that they are doing something constructive and helping. And
Right.
this could be everything from having little ones make cards and draw pictures and such to send to the healthcare workers, but also to nursing homes,
Right.
to folks who are living, and maybe people who are living alone, the elderly and in their families and others. What can the kids do? Some kids have been putting together little care packages and sending them to hospitals for the staff. What can your child do? And then another thing is having an older child host an online storytelling for younger kids, or producing a play in their house, or even a play with other kids that they're putting on for younger kids. There's many different ways that the kids can participate and contribute, and that actually builds them. That makes them great citizens of the world, but also gives them a sense of, yeah, I did something important and needed and for someone else here.
Right. I mean, maybe that's the biggest piece of irony for me out of all of this is that we're all separated physically, but I actually feel more connected to everyone than I have in a long time because we're all
Right.
going through this together. There's ways to help right now that all of us can do that won't just make a difference in our lives, make a difference in everyone's lives.
Yes, that's so true. That's so true.
I'm curious as to people. There's a lot of people that are really going, when is this going to end, right? When is this? And they're almost overtaken by I just need to have a date. I just need to have a date. Is there anything that they can do, any tools or suggestions you have for those folks who are just going, I just need a date. I just need a date.
Yeah. And this goes too for adults as well as for children. So, one of the other places, of course, the big place where anxiety can go off the rails is when our inner coach and the newscaster in our head is just telling us what's going wrong and and that it's never going to end. And it's not actually paying attention to what the facts are,
Right.
and it's not telling us how to manage. So the first thing to do is just take stock. What are you saying to yourself? What is that
Yeah.
tape? I want parents to think of it this way. Actually, I want to take a little bit of time for a second here. Bear with me.
Sure. Please.
If you were going to send your child at age, let's say 5, to play t-ball for the first time, and you weren't allowed to be there, you left your child there, and the coach sent that child out and every to play second base, and every time a ball got hit towards your little one, they missed it, the coach would scream, "What are you doing? You're not so, oh, I can't believe they sent you to my team, we're going to lose, what is wrong with you?" If every time that happened, your child would go from looking at his glove and wondering how to use his glove to just standing there frozen with fear. And
Yep.
when you picked them up and said, tomorrow's another day, they would break into tears and would not want to go back to T-ball.
Yep.
But if you sent your child there and the coach put him at second base, and as a ball came and it passed him by or whatever, if the coach said, hey, nice try, look, next time what I want you to do is put your glove up and
Hmm.
see if you could catch that ball. All right. Just like this. Do it like I'm doing it. Okay. See if you could do that. All right, buddy. And the next time the ball came, your child did that, and the ball might have, came right out of his glove. But the coach then said, good try. Hey, I like what you tried there. Okay. This time, close your glove when the ball comes.
Right.
Close it. Okay. Now, if that happened and you had that kind of a coach, then you say to the child, tomorrow's T-ball, they're going to go, okay, the question is, which coach are you? Who are you in your head to yourself? And who are you with your kids? Really good coaching is someone who doesn't focus on what goes wrong, but looks at it and says, okay, how can I do this differently?
Right.
Allows practice and time to adapt and to try again and again and adjust things as time goes on and you gain new information and you gain new skills.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to be that kind of coach to ourselves. Not to go down doom and gloom and this is we're losing the game and the end of the World Series, it's done. We're, fold up the franchise, but rather how do I build up? So there's a wonderful app called Mindshift from Anxiety Canada is the organization. I'm actually doing a webinar with them on Thursday, I think. Mindshift, it's excellent. And it leads you through cognitive or thinking strategies to change from negative to problem solving, focused, what's in my control, how to make changes. And remember, what is in your control is how you react, how you set up your space and such. You can't control what's going on in the larger world.
Yeah.
Right. And then giving chances to your kids and to yourself for messing up. It's all right, and rolling with that. So that's one of the things I would say is pay attention to the inner coach.
Right.
And especially when it comes to yourselves and kids, validate that it's okay to not be your best right now. It's all right. You can roll with that.
Such a great point. I know my inner voice or my inner monologue critic would not get a little league coaching job. Like they're definitely just
I doubt
not
that.
happen. Right?
I know. I've listened to you coaching. I don't know about that. But you do bring up the point. What we say to ourselves is different a lot of times than what we say to the kids. Yeah.
Right. And one of the tools that I've used over the years that helps me to sort of not disconnect, but give myself some space from that inner critique is really if I can put myself and think about my actions through the eyes of somebody who I know loves me, it gives me a little bit of space from that, right? So especially when the mind's going, when is this going to end? When are things going to get back to normal? I can't handle, another day like this. I can't, because it can get going pretty fast. Just to be able to step back from that inner voice is so powerful.
Right. And there's another little technique here. Just sit in a chair and pull up a chair in front of you, facing you, and let your negative voice talk, and then get in that other chair and now be the person who's the rational, realistic voice to respond back to yourself. We call it the empty chair technique. And you go back and forth, challenge your negativity with what's factual. Watch, and look at the CDC website. Turn off the news. Don't pay attention to anything else. Just get the factual information. Listen to your local doctor, MUSC folks who are giving factual information. Know that we've got to ride this out. It's going to be a while, but stick with that and stick again to knowing how you've coped with things in the past that you can cope now.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the last things that I kind of want to leave people here with is I read a great article in the Wall Street Journal last week, written by a psychiatrist at Harvard, and he just talked about the lessons that he learned caring for his wife when she had Alzheimer's towards the end of her life, and
Arthur Kleinman.
That's it. Yeah.
His book is amazing.
Is it?
It's amazing. Yes.
Well, it was truly an incredible article. And in it, he talked about how their entire lives was shifted during this, but through the rituals and bringing really mindful attention to so many things, the lunches that they prepared together, the things that they did together was just so massively influential in those years. And he's carried those forward now into this new thing at 79 years of age, and how influential that is in him getting up and having these things that really move him forward in the day.
Yeah, we were just so fortunate here in New York to have him come and speak to us before this happened, back in February, I think it was, when he was here. And I mean, I think it was a game changer for all of the people who are caretakers, because, they were doing their jobs, and now it's like really being present for that person. It's so important. And look, little things in your home right now with your kids, from baking cookies with them to, again, playing the 45th game of Sorry, All these things, if you do it in such a way of being present in the moment, is so much more meaningful and peaceful for you, and allows us to have gratitude for these little
Mm.
things in life.
That is the one, right? That sense of gratitude that is still there. We can still have that even with everything else going on. We were out for a bike ride, and we've been slowly increasing our distance as a family because it's like a new thing that we're getting excited about. Now their kids are getting into it. How far could we actually go, right? We're having these little challenges. But even in the midst of all the uncertainty and everything that we don't know is going on, being on a bike with my family, that's pretty good. That's a
Right.
lot of mental health right there for me.
That's right. That's great. Yeah.
So is there any sort of last minute tip you have for all these wonderful people that are with us or maybe will see this eventually that we could leave them with as far as strategies, tips, techniques, the greatest things that you've learned in your career, Dr. Albano?
Well, you want to know the greatest things I've learned in my career? And this actually came from Arthur Kleinman, now that I think about it. We all talk about resilience. Resilience is thought of in this world as after a period like this pandemic, that you're all going to get back to the way you were, back to normal. And when that doesn't happen for people, they then feel there's something wrong with me.
Right.
But in fact, what I want you all to think about is resilience is using coping resources in the present while you're going through this, challenging your negative and thinking through what you do have control over and how to work in this day-to-day world that you're in right now at home, doing relaxation, taking self-care, being mindful, getting exercise as you can, whether it's small things or taking bike rides, being grateful and interacting with your children, giving them structure and routines. All of these coping resources are there. You can use them as you work through. Things will be different when we come out of this, when we're out of our houses again. We can adapt to that if we allow ourselves to recognize again that the small things in life and being with our families, the ones we love or our friends, these are the things, our values are what bring us forward. So I would say the big thing is there will be an end to this.
Yeah.
We might not know how long for the moment, but each day being mindful, using the strategies that work best for you, and paying attention to these little ones, because the kids really, we're not talking as much as we need to about the kids. The kids are going to need us, and we'll be ready for it when this is all said and done.
Beautiful takeaway. One of the things that I've been repeating to myself every morning is Les Brown has a quote that says, "Are you going through this or are you growing through this?"
Grow,
and I keep
exactly.
thinking to myself, I'm going to try and grow through this, and that way we can all really, get better together, grow together.
Yes. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Dr. Albano. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you have a very busy schedule, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
Nothing more meaningful than being here right now.
Well, thank you. Hope you have a wonderful day, and we will look forward to having you back in Charleston where we can continue to showcase the Low Country for you.
Can't wait. Can't wait. Miss those shrimp and grits big time.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks.